Marijuana Nation, can you help us out real quick by taking our annual listener survey? It's quick and easy, and I have to bug you about it until we get all the responses we need. So pop over to mjtodaymedia.com/survey to take a few minutes to let us know how we're doing. That's mjtodaymedia.com/survey. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at the Atlantic Farms Medical Marijuana Dispensary of Portland, Maine, which is located right down the street from where I live and is known as being the medical marijuana dispensary that is also a gas station, where you can buy things like snacks and drinks alongside medical marijuana products. Check them out over at theatlanticfarms.com. That's theatlanticfarms.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, September 4th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 977 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We lead off the day with a pickup by Ben Adlin over at Marijuana Moments of a press conference held yesterday afternoon in Pennsylvania, at which Governor Tom Wolf criticized the Republican-led legislature for failing to legalize adult-use marijuana when a plan was in the works last year, and again calling for legalization to help cushion the financial fallout associated with Trump's disastrous pandemic. Governor Wolf was joined by Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who you should remember for his statewide tour last year of Pennsylvania cities, towns, and townships, gathering feedback on legalization. State Senator Sharif Street also spoke at yesterday's press conference and highlighted both the economic argument for legalization as well as the social justice side. There's a lot of momentum and energy for legalization in the Keystone State, so not a bad overall storyline to keep on your radar. Ben Story has all the details and video of the press conference itself for you to check out. Multi-state cannabis operator MedMen has been having a rather rough go of it over the last year or so, and Marijuana Business Daily is reporting that the beleaguered company just learned that it was denied a permit required to open up a marijuana dispensary in Pasadena, California, due to the fact that the company's executive ranks have been in such turmoil as of late. A striking number here is the 8 out of the 10 original owners listed on MedMen's Pasadena application who are no longer with the company. The involvement and control over MedMen that was recently gained by investors Green Gotham Partners was also cited as a reason for MedMen losing its license. Currently, MedMen stock is traded up on the Canadian Securities Exchange for about $0.25 a share, down from a high of more than $9 a share in October of 2018. Our final top story on the day and the week is another Marijuana Business Daily story, with Matt Lamers looking at the number of licensed marijuana businesses in Canada owned and operated by Indigenous people. Out of the 459 marijuana business licenses that have been given out by the Canadian federal government, just 19, or around 4%, are owned by Indigenous people, with none of those located on a reservation. Canada has a pretty horrific history of oppressing Native people, complete with stealing children from Native families to be placed in state-run schools, something that happened through the 1980s and has systemic racism built throughout all of its systems, just as we do down here in the United States. Canada has programs to help entrepreneurs from Indigenous communities get into the cannabis industry, but there's a lot of historic racism to work against, so success has been hard to find. Read this story. Don't not read this story, as this is an issue that the industry has to get right and fix everywhere. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz on in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the Atlantic Farms Medical Marijuana Dispensary of Portland, Maine, which is located right down the street from where I live and is known as being the medical cannabis dispensary that is also a gas station, where you can buy things like snacks and drinks alongside medical marijuana products. One of the things that the Atlantic Farms customers value the most about this very cool company is the focus placed on delivering top quality products at affordable prices. The folks behind the Atlantic Farms pulled that off in the good old-fashioned way by building and maintaining strong vendor relationships centered around trust and respect for the product and the customer. Plus, the Atlantic Farms puts a lot of energy into developing their own in-house brands, which helps them set the baseline standard for everything they offer on their shelves. And don't forget, you can also get gas at the Atlantic Farms, which is one of the few gas station dispensaries around. Learn more about the Atlantic Farms over at their website at theatlanticfarms.com, and make sure to tell them I said hello when you pop in for a visit. That's theatlanticfarms.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Returning to Nebraska, Kyle Yeager has an update on that storyline that centers around a just-approved ballot measure to legalize medical marijuana that has been challenged in court by a Republican prohibitionist sheriff, who is arguing that the ballot measure runs afoul of a state law limiting ballot measures to single issues. The first call by that sheriff to the Secretary of State to block the initiative was denied, so the sheriff's lawyers filed with the Nebraska Supreme Court to consider the matter. And yesterday, justices convened and heard oral arguments from the two sides. Kyle's story on this one is a good one and includes video of the actual court hearing. A final decision on the matter will be made by September 11th, the deadline for certifying questions for the November ballot. Canadian giant Canopy Growth is laying off more of its workers at an Ontario production facility following a larger round of layoffs this summer that cut its staff by just under 20%. Alan Brockstein over at New Cannabis Ventures has a good story that's worth a dive into, especially if you're playing the cannabis stock game, with a look at the rise in the number of publicly traded companies generating healthy amounts of revenue, with August's numbers being particularly robust. We need to quickly mention on this one that our sponsor Curaleaf is one of the listed companies, as is Forefront Ventures, which our very own Chris Crane is president of. The U.S. Department of Agriculture just approved industrial hemp regulation plans for the states of Maine and Missouri, as well as the native Cow Creek Band of Umpqua tribe. These plans are required by states, territories, and native tribes wishing to implement legal industrial hemp, with 58 so far being approved. Jumping overseas to Israel, we have a story about a cannabis marketing stunt involving drones that dropped hundreds of small packages of cannabis onto the streets of Tel Aviv. I think this is actually a terrible idea, so I'm not going to talk much about the company that pulled it off, and I realize that me reporting on this here does give the story some legs, but even so, I just don't think it's a really good idea given the times to send drones up into the air to drop things on people, even if it's free cannabis. Let's not do things like that here. Politico has a must-read long-form story up looking at the fall of the High Times company and brand, something we've long tracked here on The Daily. Politico's story delves into the change in ownership in High Times brought about by the death of its longtime owner Michael Kennedy and the fall from on high that the brand has experienced ever since, with a wake of canceled events, failed deals, lawsuits, and disgruntled business partners behind it. Make sure to read this one today. It's a good one. Finally, for today and for the week, we have the California Department of Food and Agriculture just launching a new marketing campaign to push the state's legal marijuana industry. The campaign, developed by the Department of Food and Agriculture's Cal Cannabis Cultivation Licensing Program, is centered around the slogan, "This is California Cannabis," and features videos about local cannabis farmers and the importance of a legal and compliant industry. In a world that seems to be burning up around us, these are nice little bits of escape. Maybe end the news day and give this one a watch. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Tuesday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Atlantic Farms, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.